Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the regular city commission meeting for this, the 14th day of July 2025 at 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Dollison.
Here.
Commissioner Mercer.
Here.
Commissioner Dantzler.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yates.
Here.
And Mayor Birdsong.
Here. We will have an invocation by Father Paul Head of the St. Paul Episcopal Church, and will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Latanya Harris, CMP Deputy City Clerk. Please stand in favor.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, you have blessed us with the greatest form of government the world has ever known. At its best, we have a form of government that allows anyone the opportunity to succeed and achieve their dreams and desires, to be content and secure and find meaning and purpose in their life. At its best, we have a form of government where everyone is equal under the law. You have given broken humanity dominion over the earth, and you have told us that if we call to you and seek your face, you will answer us and lead us in the way we should go. You will also stand aside if we choose to do it our own way. I ask your blessing on these, our representatives, whom we have given charge over our resources here in Winter Haven. Help them be good stewards of the resources they have been given, not only for your people today, but as a legacy for those who will follow us. Give them knowledge to know what they can do, give them wisdom to know what they should do, and give them insight to know the difference. I ask your blessing on this meeting tonight for those who will state their cases and those who will hear them. Let everyone work toward the common good, and let what happens tonight be a blessing to you and a benefit to your people. I ask all these things in the name of my Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners, we have two proclamations to present this evening. The first is for Lakes Appreciation Month, and I'll ask members of our Lakes Advisory Committee and of our Natural Resources Division to come forward to accept this proclamation. Our proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Winter Haven, Florida, as part of a global community, desires to take action to create positive environmental change. And whereas 50 lakes are contiguous to the city of Winter Haven, including the northern and southern chain of lakes. And whereas lakes are an important part of Winter Haven's way of life, providing social, economic, and ecological benefits. And whereas the city of Winter Haven has taken the lead in protecting and restoring water quality to its lakes. And whereas in working towards a sustainable future for our children, we must also provide them the tools and experiences they need to solve the environmental problems of the future. And whereas through constant and friendly communication about environmental issues, citizens will tend to be more creative, sensitive, experimental, and flexible in resolving the challenges faced. And whereas Lakes Appreciation Month can draw people together in appreciation of Winter Haven's lakes and recognize the need to protect them for future generations. Now, therefore, Nathaniel J. Birdsong, Jr., Mayor of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, does hereby recognize July 2025 as Lakes Appreciation Month in the City of Winter Haven and urges all citizens to visit a lake and consider what they can do to contribute to a healthy and sustainable future. In witness whereof he is hereunto set his hand and caused the seal of the City of Winter Haven, Florida to be affixed this 14th day of July 2025. Signed, Nathaniel J. Birdsong, Jr., Mayor. Attest, Vanessa Castillo, City Clerk.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioners. Really appreciate this moment. And before I give the mic to Ms. Francis, I just wanted to gush on Ms. Frances Coleman and all that she's done as a citizen and a resident and a member of the Lakes Advisory Committee. The dedication that she's shown and continues to show with her involvement in the city and in natural resources conservation is commendable. And her work that she's done in helping us draft the annual Lakes report, in which we'll have a presentation on that later. But her review, and I'd like to just joke that in her email that she sends to us with after her review of the annual Lakes report, she has literally poured over every ounce of this document and has provided comments on page 294. If you look at this paragraph here, and the work that she has done for us and for the city is commendable. And the work that she has done in wildlife conservation, natural resources conservation, she has done more for conservation efforts than probably 1,000 people would do in their lifetime. So with that, I'll kick over the mic to Ms. Frances.
Let me just put it this way. It was my pleasure to read the report. I do not recommend that any of you sit down and try to go through the whole thing in one sitting. No way. But if you just gut up and say, I'm going to do it 30 pages at a time, which is what I did, it works. And it is a wonderful report. Okay, now with that aside, I think my reading the report is a reflection that I'm an old school teacher, okay? I could not comment on the math or the chemistry, but I could comment on the readability. And I didn't want anybody reading this report to stop and say, wait a minute, that's not a complete sentence, or, oh, that's a misspelling, okay? And sometime, in spite of the fact that we rely on computers, they are not infallible. So it's a combination of spell check and old lady school teacher, period. Okay. All right. With that, I will get to my thank you for this proclamation. It is really a pleasure to be with you tonight to celebrate our lakes. Lakes Appreciation Month is a nationally recognized event, but there is nowhere in this country that it is more relevant and meaningful than in our chain of Lake City. We have a lovely, interesting downtown that matches any other city in Central Florida, but we are unique in that our chain of lakes tie it all together. I recently picked up a copy of the travel guide, Visit Central Florida. Okay, you go through the first of it, page after page. Each community has a listing of their attractions and what have you. But then you get to page 28 to 33, and it's the feature is Lake Life Winter Haven. And it's page after page of beautiful pictures and text going over everything from skiing to boat tours, to paddleboarding, fishing, airboat riding, kayaking, waterfront dining, everything. Okay, all I can say is if our lakes were clogged with algae, or if we had fish kills, all of that economic activity would not be happening. Our Natural Resources Committee has prepared this 2024 Annual Lakes Report. It is an outstanding scientific work which gives us baseline and points out trends. This will help us to determine what remediation projects result in improvement. Again, it's not like reading, but I highly recommend that you read the executive summary and then zero in on 2 or 3 lakes that particularly interest you. I found it fascinating to read how, our lakes are different. It's not all one size fits all. But it was so interesting to read that some lakes that are shallow have a real problem with sediment dispersal in high winds. Other lakes have a problem with legacy pollution because they were used as waste dumps before we knew better. And so it's fascinating to read through and find out what the problems are and what the remediation efforts are happening on these individual lakes. Okay. I recently had a son visit from California. What hiking did we do? Okay, yeah, we went out to Circle B. And then we made it a point to go to our nature parks here in Winter Haven and hike all of our nature parks. This was on a weekday morning that we did the parks. In spite of the fact that it was a work day, there were loads of people out there enjoying walking these trails, walking around the retention ponds and what have you. It's a marvelous thing for Winter Haven. I especially want to recommend that if you haven't been out to the latest one, Lake Conine, that you do it. It is a gem, really wonderful. Okay, on behalf of the City Lakes Advisory Committee, I want to thank you for this proclamation, which is testimony to your commitment to protect our lakes. We are all justly proud of our attractive, boatable, fishable, walkable, green shaded community. And with your guidance and support, it's only going to get better. Thank you. Okay, so I'll take this up, right?
We're gonna take two. On the count of three. 1, 2, 3. One more. Perfect.
Mayor and Commissioners, your second proclamation this evening is along the same lines. This is for Parks and Recreation Month, and I'm going to invite Julie Adams and members of your Parks, Recreation, and Culture team to accompany her to the podium. Our proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Parks and Recreation Month has been celebrated nationally since 1985, and this year marks the 40th anniversary of recognizing the vital role parks and recreation play in enhancing the quality of life in communities across the country. And whereas the City of Winter Haven is home to a vibrant and growing network of parks, trails, lakes, and recreational spaces that serve residents of all ages and abilities, offering places to gather, play, exercise, learn, and connect. And whereas our city's parks and recreation professionals, along with part-time staff and volunteers, provide high-quality programs and maintain beautiful public spaces through their dedication and service. And whereas parks and recreation are essential to the health and wellness, social connection, environmental stewardship, and economic vitality by contributing to stronger, more resilient communities. And whereas the theme for 2025, Build Together, Play Together, reflects how parks and recreation departments nationwide are working hand in hand with residents to build inclusive, sustainable, and accessible spaces that serve current and future generations. And whereas the City of Winter Haven recognizes the lasting impact of parks and recreation opportunities, which help foster lifelong memories, family bonds, and a shared sense of community pride. Now, therefore, Nathaniel J. Birdsong, Jr., Mayor of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, does hereby proclaim July 2025 as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Winter Haven and encourages the entire Winter Haven community to celebrate by visiting a park, participating in a recreation program, and acknowledging the dedicated individuals who make these services possible. In witness whereof, he is hereunto set his hand and caused the seal of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, to be affixed this 14th day of July, 2025. Signed, Nathaniel J. Birdsong, Jr., Mayor. Attest, Vanessa Castillo, City Clerk.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. It is my honor to stand before you this evening to really turn around and focus on the team that's standing behind me and the rest of the team behind them that couldn't be with us this evening, but that we all represent. And that is your Parks, Recreation, and Culture Department, who are proud to be able to accept this proclamation as a reflection of all of the commitment that you all lead with. So with that, we'll move into the 40th year of celebration of the National Recreation and Park Association's Parks and Recreation Month proclamation. So like T. Michael said, build together, play together. And speaking of building, We are no stranger to capital investment here in Winter Haven, and we are proud to be able to list some of the accomplishments that we have already opened to our citizens and our residents and our visitors alike, but also to highlight some of the ongoing projects that we have within our Parks, Recreation, and Culture Department, and to speak to some of the highlights that we have going on currently. With the Lake Elbert Trail, if you've been by recently, you've seen that paving is happening, and we're getting day by day closer to the conclusion of that project and opening up that space to residents to enjoy and have that be a whole other space for programming for us in and throughout the community. If you drive by, you do see people that are already starting to enjoy the paved trail, which we love to see. At Willowbrook Golf Course, they have made some huge strides in the project there. They're working on the irrigation portion of that project. Lots happening in a short amount of time, and we're ready to welcome golfers back to a fully restored golf course sometime later in the fall. Chain of Lakes Park, we have upright structures happening. Buildings are going up. It's really starting to take form and for you to be really able to see what it's going to be when it's finished. They're doing great out there. And of course, the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center, which every time you drive by, they're making crazy progress. It has been such an honor to be a part of that project. And we speak to involvement with the community, and that is one of our hallmarks here with this department in this city, is ensuring that we bring in the community to anything that we're going to turn back out to them. Building a safer community. So here, taking an opportunity to highlight our aquatics operation, and Adam Butler's here with me tonight and representing that team, who taught it from July of last year of 2024 to July of this year, as we stand today, almost 2,000 swim lessons to the community. As you can see here in this video, we bring children in who at the beginning of sessions may be afraid to even put their face into water. And by the end of the session with our talented team, they're able to safely navigate being in the water alone and having fun in the water, which is our whole goal. Play together. So although this slide highlights some of our city signature events, that is one of the things that keeps us human together, and that's the element of play. We like to highlight some of these things that we do to bring in the community and celebrate. These are our poignant celebrations and our traditional celebrations. But I encourage my team, and I encourage those of us around me, to take a moment every day to play. That helps ground us and keep us on a human level that we all appreciate so much. I'm sure my team can speak to that a little bit. And then also building together with the community. Listed here are some of our critical partners that we have throughout our community of Winter Haven and our neighbors as well, that partner with us to provide such awesome, impactful, intentional experiences to our community, to our residents, and to our visitors alike. And we couldn't do what we do without their support and their teamwork here to continue to build something special together. Again, tonight has been about a snapshot of what we do here in Parks, Recreation, and Culture. I'd like to just remind you that the people that are standing behind me are a team of really, really special, grounded, forward-thinking, incredible people. I can rely on them every day to show up with a smile on their face, trying to make this place 1% better today than it was yesterday. And I'm so honored and impressed to be a part of their team and to be able to stand before you tonight. So with that, thank you for your vision and for continuing to stay committed to Parks and Recreation in Winter Haven. We're all going to be better for it. And so will our kids and our grandkids and everybody down the road. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I just have to say a word about Francis. Francis Coleman. I've been on the Lakes Advisory Committee for 23 years. The person that beats me out is Francis. She's been a fixture forever and a day, and I remember the old days when the Lakes report wasn't what we have here. I remember people having to write it and put it together, and so my hat's off to the Lakes Committee and Francis. We really do appreciate your dedication and your work on our committee.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. We have no developments of note. We have the minutes, commissioners.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
motion to approve 5 sets of minutes.
thank you. I will close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to any of these minutes may do so at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing, reopen the commission meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none, the minutes are adopted. Okay, no one signed up to address the commission. However, if there's someone that came in before we took the sheet up, you can do so at this time. All right. Ordinance second reading, public hearing. Ordinance 02521. Would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-25-21, an ordinance amending ordinance 23-25, the 2035 Winter Haven Comprehensive Plan by revising the future land use map series by amending the future land use on a parcel from neighborhood suburban future land use to neighborhood mixed use hub future land use, assigning neighborhood mixed use hub future land use to an annexed parcel, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and providing an effective date. The general location, 807 Snively Avenue, the northeast corner of Snively Avenue and Eloise Loop Road. The area covered by this request is 33 plus or minus acres. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. We've had this 3 times, so let us know.
There are no changes to what has been presented on first reading or during your agenda reviews to the item. Staff recommends City Commission approve ordinance O-25-21 on second and final reading.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
motion to approve ordinance O-25-21 and public hearing.
all right, thank you. I will close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to O-25-21 may do so at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing, reopen the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none, the motion passes. Ordinance O-25-22, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-25-22, an ordinance amending Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Winter Haven, Florida by assigning Commercial Highway C3 zoning district to 2 annexed parcels, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and providing an effective date. General location, 807 Snively Avenue, the northeast corner of Snively Avenue and Eloise Loop Road. The area covered by this request is 33 plus or minus acres. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. This is just zoning and it changes.
No, sir, no changes from first reading. This is an ordinance that assigns the zoning to the aforementioned property. Staff recommends City Commission approve ordinance O-25-22 on second and final reading.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Motion to approve on second reading O-25-22.
Thank you. I will close the commission meeting and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to O-25-22 may do so at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing, reopen the city commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none. O-25-22 is adopted. Commissioners, you have the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
motion to approve the consent agenda in its entirety.
thank you. I will close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to any item on the consent agenda may do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, reopen the commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none. The consent agenda is adopted in its entirety. Resolution R 2535, which read by title only. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution R-25-35, a resolution confirming the acceptance of a portion of the improvements, infrastructure, and dedications in favor of the public/city of Winter Haven as notated on that certain plat entitled Lake Deer Townhomes, recorded in the office of the clerk of the circuit court in Fort Polk County, Florida, and Plat Book 216, pages 4 through 13, Public Records of Polk County, Florida, and confirming the continued possession of a performance bond posted to guarantee completion of required improvements and infrastructure that remain uncompleted for this subdivision, and providing for an effective date. General location: subdivision is generally located east of 35th Street Northwest, north of Wrecker Highway, and south of Lake Deer. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, May 27th of this year, the commission approved Resolution R-2526, platting the Lake Deer Townhome subdivision, which consists of 51.7 plus or minus acres. Also contains 304 building lots and 10 common lots. The developer submitted a performance bond in the amount of $1,976,237.50 to guarantee completion of all required infrastructure and improvements. While TBHG Inc. platted Lake Deer Townhomes as a single-phase subdivision plat, they chose to break the installation of required infrastructure into 2 phases. At this time, they have completed the required infrastructure for Phase 1 and are now seeking the city's acceptance of those improvements to be dedicated to the city. City staff has performed inspections of the improvements and found them ready for acceptance. The city will retain the performance bond submitted as part of the subdivision plat approval process. As work is incomplete for Phase 2, the bond issued in the amount of $1.976 million will continue to be held to ensure completion of the infrastructure in that area. Staff recommends the City Commission approve Resolution R-25-35 and authorize the city manager or designee to take necessary and appropriate actions related thereto. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve a resolution R-2535.
Thank you. I will close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to R-2535 may do so at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing, reopen the commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none. Resolution R-2535 is adopted. Resolution R-2536, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number R-25-36, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, making findings, approving and adopting the 2024 Annual Lakes Report, providing for severability, the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to invite Dustin Everett from the Natural Resources Division to come and assist in this presentation. As an introduction, each year the Lakes Advisory Committee presents the annual Lakes Report, which summarizes the current condition of area lakes and outlines the city's ongoing and planned management strategies. The 2024 report includes assessments for 37 lakes, selected based on criteria such as public accessibility, data availability, and connectivity to the Winter Haven chain of lakes and the Peace Creek Basin. In 2024, 54% of the monitored lakes met the state of Florida's regulatory thresholds for nutrients. While this percentage remains unchanged from the prior year, it reflects a continuing upward trend from earlier years. With that, I'll hand off to Mr. Everett and his amazing team that are here with him to give further insights.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners, thank you for allowing my team and I to present before you information from the latest Annual Lakes Report. This report, which can be found online at the City of Winter Haven website, gives a thorough and comprehensive review of our lakes and focuses on water quality, hydrology, and ecology. I'd like to start by introducing our dedicated team. Savannah Winstanley is the Ecosystem and Asset Analyst. Devin Moore is our Senior Environmental Scientist. Mary Thornhill, right behind me, is our Natural Resources Specialist. Genevieve Stutz is our Scientific Aide, and Olivia Husick is our Environmental Scientist. Over the past year, our division has achieved several key accomplishments. We increased our hydrologic monitoring of the lakes with additional surface level sensors and continue to deploy more. And are working to add additional rainfall and groundwater monitoring stations throughout the city with Winter Haven Water. We've refurbished existing rain gardens and completed construction on 12 additional rain gardens, and began work on the Lake Albert Trail project that includes additional rain gardens there. Throughout this past year, we spoke with nearly 2,000 people, many of them children, through various educational outreach events. We reached an additional 300 people over the previous year, so continuing to expand our outreach capabilities. We added some new events like lakeshore cleanups, kids fishing derbies, and our schools out camps that we put on in conjunction with Parks and Rec activities. We've managed public lake shores and natural areas, removed invasive plants. We've planted native vegetation in lakes like Lake Martha. We've partnered with the Lakes Region Lakes Management District to remove tussocks, which is a floating island type of invasive vegetation mat that can cover our lakes. In addition, we also successfully completed the NPDES report and now the annual lakes report. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Senior Environmental Scientist, Devin Moore.
Good evening. Thank you, Dustin. So I'm just going to go into a few details as part of the report. First being the metrics that we evaluate the report by. As Dustin mentioned, we focus on three main categories of metrics. These include water quality, hydrology, and ecology. Each category encompasses several key indicators that function integrally to drive the health of our lakes. While we could easily just focus on one component, like water quality, understanding how each of these affects one another and the lakes as a whole is important to planning effective management strategies of our lakes. So digging into each of those categories, the first is water quality. Water quality is a critical aspect of lake health. We assess it using metrics like chlorophyll A, or the amount of algae in the water column, total nitrogen and total phosphorus, the core nutrients that drive the growth of plants and algae, and water clarity, which is the amount of suspended material in the water column. The city relies on water quality sampling collected quarterly by Polk County Natural Resources. We then analyze these data points and track annual changes in water quality. In 2024, as stated, 20 of the 37 area lakes were meeting regulatory water quality standards, that is, not impaired. Of the 17 that are impaired, over half exhibited significant improving trends in at least one of those four water quality metrics. Moving on to hydrology, which is the study of how water moves through our environment, we focus on metrics like rainfall, lake levels, and groundwater levels. The city utilizes a network of hydrologic stations, weather stations, groundwater monitoring wells, and lake level, surface level sensors to track these metrics. This hydrologic network is comprised not only of Winter Haven devices, but Southwest Florida Water Management District and Polk County devices, all working together to provide a detailed view of the water quantity in our area. In 2024, our total rainfall was slightly below the annual average of 52 inches. However, an active hurricane season left the lakes and aquifer at or above their average levels towards the end of the year. Generally, higher lake levels and aquifer levels tend to equate to better water quality in our area, mostly due to increased turnover of the water column, increased flushing of excess nutrients, and increased connection to adjacent wetlands that can help to filter the water in our lakes. This is why water conservation efforts and practices that promote groundwater infiltration are so important in our area. For ecology, it's all about the plant and animal communities that live in our lakes. Our primary metrics focus on aquatic vegetation abundance, species composition, and diversity. Healthy plant communities contribute significantly to overall lake health by providing habitat space for fish and wildlife, nutrient filtration, and sediment stabilization. The city conducts one of the most robust aquatic plant monitoring programs within the state, tracking vegetation abundance through sonar mapping and species composition through sampling efforts. Each lake is monitored at least once annually, and we also collaborate with Polk County and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission to plan invasive plant removal efforts using this data. While these biological metrics can vary considerably from lake to lake, overall aquatic plant abundance was high in 2024, and our invasive species populations were at an all-time low, indicating that we're having some success in managing the aquatic vegetation in our lakes to healthy native populations. So pulling all of these categories together, we've developed a custom metric for evaluating our lakes called the Lake Health Index. This provides a numerical objective value for evaluating lake health, comprised of 8 individual criteria, that is the water quality impairments, the trends in chlorophyll A, nitrogen, phosphorus, and water clarity, aquatic vegetation abundance, invasive species presence, and aquatic diversity. All of these criteria are scored on a range from 0 to 3, with 3 being the best. We then average each of the individual criteria scores to calculate the overall Lake Health Index value for each lake annually. These scores can be used to prioritize management efforts and track changes in lake health over time to gauge our effectiveness. To that point, the table you're viewing here represents the annual criteria and Lake Health Index scores averaged across all 37 lakes in our study area. What we've noticed since we began evaluating the lakes this way is that on the whole, they have been gradually improving over time. While there have been some up and down fluctuations in several metrics, one of our more striking takeaways is how we have had multiple impaired water bodies begin to meet those regulatory water quality standards. Specifically, Lakes Conine, Deer, Fanny, Otis, and Rochelle, from 2018 to the current times, are now meeting those standards, which is phenomenal. This is a huge accomplishment that not many communities or lake management teams can boast. So how are the lakes actually doing in 2024? While that is a complicated answer, what we can generalize is that 27 of the 37 lakes, or 73%, are currently having Lake Health Index values in the good to very good range. A handful are in the fair range, whereas we only have one lake, Lake Idle, that is currently in the poor range. So what do we do with the Lake Health Index values once we calculate them? We prioritize management action on our lakes. We focus on those exhibiting poor water quality or declining aquatic vegetation communities. And while I mentioned that the 17 lakes that aren't currently meeting regulatory standards exist, the majority of these are actually showing statistically significant improving trends in water quality. Only a handful of lakes are actually undergoing declines in water quality or overall lake health. But our top priority list include Lake Idle, which has poor water quality, declining trends, and a poor aquatic vegetation community. Lakes Hamilton and Hartridge, while having good vegetation communities, are currently impaired and are trending in a downward direction. Whereas Lakes Elbert and Martha are not currently impaired yet. However, they're trending that way, and their aquatic vegetation communities are less than stellar. With this latter group, it's important that we focus on these to try to correct them before they reach that critical point of impairment. So with that, I'll turn things over to Savannah, let her explain some of the things we're doing to try to turn these lakes around.
All right, so going off of that, there are some ongoing lake management efforts that we have to improve those priority lakes. Specifically on Lake Hamilton, which is being administered by Polk County. They have a water quality improvement plan that's in place that focuses on several stormwater improvements, a wetland park, and some biofiltration of the stormwater inputs to that lake. On Lake Idle, the city has a water quality improvement plan in place that will also focus on improving the stormwater inputs to that lake, as well as a sediment inactivation project, which will take some of the legacy sediments out of that lake and improve some of the nutrient loading going on internally. Lake Martha, we have engaged in several aquatic vegetation planting projects, hoping to boost the aquatic plant community in that lake. Around Lake Albert, the recent Lake Albert Trail project includes several stormwater improvements, including rain gardens and different green infrastructure elements such as that. Our street sweeping program is not only an aesthetic boost for the city, but also focuses on removing those pollutants before they get to the lakes. The miles that we include in that program are specifically targeted for lakes that are either trending poorly or are impaired. And that way we can give them the boost that they need. And we also have several green stormwater infrastructure projects. Lake Conine Nature Park, which was recently completed, was one of those. And we have 3 other nature parks throughout the city that help filter the water before it gets into the lake. And our final management effort, we have a huge focus on public outreach and education. Ultimately, the citizens of Winter Haven are our biggest actors in improving our lake's water quality, helping to reduce pollutant loading from fertilizer use and things like that. This is just a handful of the things we do. If you use the full report, you can see a full detailed overview of the different management strategies we have going on for each lake. So this year's best lake is Lake Daisy. It had the best overall lake health score. And this is thanks to its improving water quality metrics as well as native aquatic plant growth. Other lakes that are doing very well include Lakes Mirror, Maud, and Winterset. So with that, the annual lakes report is a ginormous effort that we go through each year. The full report is over 300 pages now, I think. And any detail that you could possibly want on a lake is in there. But we also have several other formats available, so you can get as high level an overview as you need and dig in from there. This year, as well as the web app version of the report, which we have on the city's website, we are also providing a report in brief, which is a short 12-page document that condenses the highlights from 2024 lake conditions and highlights different management milestones from the year. Thank you.
Commissioners, I'd just point out a couple of things in follow-up to what the team has presented. If you notice on the improvements in overall lake scores, the metrics that they had shown, I think one of the biggest concerns we have when we talk about new development that happens in Winter Haven, obviously we're concerned about traffic and we're concerned about crime and the other things that can come about as negative impacts from growth. Well, certainly, degradation of the environmental condition certainly comes into play. Yet, despite all the growth we've seen over the past 5 years in particular, you saw that the condition of our lakes has improved. And that speaks, in my opinion, volumes to the work that the Natural Resources Division does. I'd also point out that the report that you have before you is probably one of the finest documents that you will ever come across as it speaks to our local limnology. And if we were to contract out for someone to produce something of this magnitude, one, the historical information is hard to come by if you haven't been a part of the process all along. And then the annual data collection that culminates in this report, you're easily looking at about probably a $200,000 to $250,000 study of your lakes. We're able to produce that in-house thanks to the expertise and the hard work of this team. So that is not lost on me. The quality of that document, I think you could put up against anything that's produced anywhere in this country, and people would be in awe that we have a staff that's able to do that.
Outstanding report. Yes.
I got some questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you for this. I keep this at my desk office, and I do appreciate it very much. A couple of questions. If it were just all about money and you had unlimited funds, could you add more lakes? The reason I'm asking is, like, I live on Lake Bess and Lake Ruby. That's surrounded by Winter Haven. Lake Myrtle, which is Lake Ashton, is surrounded by Winter Haven people. As we move more and more in the southeast area, we're approving 300 and 400 lots all the time on all those lakes. I think it'd be nice if we could somehow consider maybe adding some of those lakes because of the population at Winter Haven's moving out that way? And is it just a function of money, or is it something else that precludes us from, like, I keep wanting to see Lake Bess on here because that's where I live, but I just keep thinking, is it just a funding issue, or what's stopping us from doing other lakes?
Well, there would be some permitting issues as well if you're just creating lakes for recreational purpose or something of that nature. The short answer is we are creating lakes depending upon what your definition is of lakes, whether or not it's purchasing a large property like Bradco Farms and then making some giant wetland cells or open water cells that are used to hold water. Some of the things promoted by our Winter Haven Water in bolstering up the Sapphire Necklace with water supply and creating some of these water storage areas. That's essentially what we would be doing is creating lakes.
Can I add? And so traditionally, we have also used the state's requirements of looking at public water bodies for which lakes we would study. So that would be, so on Lake Bess and Lake Myrtle, for instance, there's not improved public access. So when it comes time to apply for grants, like we did on Lake Idle, to make a water quality improvement, those lakes wouldn't be eligible because they aren't widely accessible to the public.
I mean, Lake Ashton, which is Lake Myrtle, that doesn't have public access for
No,
the
it's
people down there?
it's a private boat ramp within the Lake Ashton community.
Yeah, and Lake Bess or Lake Ruby's got lots of boat ramps, but they're all private, so
They're all
that
private,
precludes them from being studied.
And it precludes them from state dollars also.
So it's money. It's basically, it's a funding issue.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to get
Yes.
to.
And we also look at the other piece of that is the stormwater side, right? So lakes that we contribute stormwater to are lakes that we have a requirement to understand and improve as part of our MPDES permit. So that's another factor in there. And those are lakes that don't get that contribution.
Well, it just so happens we're having budget discussions right now. That's why I'm asking if you guys were to get an extra $300,000 in your allotment or whatever, would that mean you just hire another employee? How can we get this expanded? Because, and I'm not doing it just for myself, but I'm talking about other lakes that I would love to see reports on, even though there may not have a ramp on them, a public ramp. That's what I'm trying to get to. Is it if it's just a funding issue, or the state doesn't give us money if we don't have public access? That's a funding issue. You know, there's 6 of you guys. If you had 7, could you add another 20 lakes? I don't know. I'm just trying to understand the situation. That's all.
So I think access to our ability to access the lake as government employees, when there is not a public access to it, that makes it very difficult to do that. And then the question would be, well, where do we draw the line? If you have one landowner that owns the entire lake, and then he wants us to spend our time and resources going out there and studying that one particular lake for him, when we're serving the community at large with taxpayer funding, I think that would raise some questions there. I think that there's a lot of work that can be done in the future with regards to the city looking at acquiring property potentially on some of these private lakes and increasing public access to private lakes, which would then make the lake public and would open up opportunities for our staff to be able to go out and monitor these lakes as public water bodies. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for that, especially as our population expands and we need more recreational lakes and opportunities for our residents.
So it's a public access issue as much as.
That's really where the rubber meets the road on the lakes that we work on. Are they publicly accessible? That is not the only defining thing. There are some circumstances where we might be studying a smaller lake if we have stormwater that goes, some of our infrastructure or stormwater impacts that lake or pond. We may have some ability to study that then.
And an agreement with a homeowners association at Lake Ashton wouldn't count if you could somehow get some sort of an agreement with them to where you could access the lake through their ramps, or like, I'm just trying to think outside the box a little bit to give you guys access. I get it if there's no public access, but
I think the question could be raised by somebody in the public as to why are they studying a lake that I can't access? Why is my taxpayer money going towards studying a lake that anybody from the general public would not be able to access?
I think Brett, Commissioner Dancer, if you can liken it to private roads versus public roads, you couldn't very well spend money to improve a private road in a subdivision that's gated. Well, analogize that to a lake.
I get all that, but we
So-
have probably 1,000 residents in Lake Ashton that pay Winter Haven taxes that would love to have their lake cleaned. And we're going to have a lot more out there eventually that are we're annexing all this property out there. We need to take care of those lakes as well. That's what I'm trying to get to. I get it.
And
Public roads.
that is a very valid point. And that might create an environment where the city could acquire a piece of property to create a park and a boat ramp on these lakes that with being able to open up that access and secure not only city research and tools there, but also on a state level, they would be able to get vegetation management activities by the state of Florida and elsewhere. So like it would be a very important thing, I think, in the future, if there's a lot of work that needs to be done on a private lake for it to become public. And there's been several cases across the state of Florida where that has indeed happened. Cases where a private lake that several different homeowners live on, it becomes completely choked up with an invasive aquatic vegetation like hydrilla. And some of those hydrilla treatments can cost, upwards of $1 million. And then they quickly want their lake to become public when public funds can become available to treat public water bodies.
That happened to Lake Bess.
I was gonna say that.
We had that, and we raised the money and bought the fish, and there's no hydrilla left.
Alternatively, though, on Lake Otis, there was a similar situation.
Right.
And they took that funding that they had raised collectively and put it into purchasing property that they then donated back to the Lakes Region Lake Management District
we
to
then-
create improved public access,
Yeah.
which then allowed it. And I think in the strategic plan, we also identified increasing public access to water bodies throughout the community. So I think, those are things that we're looking at.
And what's the deepest lake of all the ones you studied? I'm just curious, which one's the deepest? Where's the deepest spot?
Lake Silver, right here behind.
Lake Silver?
Yeah, it's very deep, very crater lake.
That's it for me.
I think it's often you can't win for losing, because I think if we did that and we said, okay, well, let's put a boat ramp on Lake Ashton. We'll fill this room up. Don't put a public access on Lake Ashton. That's so many times you just can't win for trying. But my question is, and I think I had the same question last year, and I can't recall all the answer, but still the same concern is when you look at something like a Lake Otis and a Lake Elbert, and you've got that connection between the two lakes, and potentially losing water quality in Otis because you're pumping water from Elbert. What is the realistic possibility of that happening? Does that happen? Do you risk the health of one lake to bring up another lake, or?
That's a valid question. And in the case of Elbert to Otis, no water can currently get from one to the other. Now we have a proposal out there and a grant with FEMA to be able to secure a pump that would allow us in emergency situations to pump water from Elbert, which has no natural outlet, to be able to go underneath the street and over to Otis. And that would be done probably in times of emergency when water levels necessitate that. And so the short answer to there is no real short answer to your question, but the thick of it is that if done regularly and you're taking water from a bad water quality place and putting it in a place that has good water quality, you do run the risk of reducing the water quality if it's done excessively and over a long period of time. But even then, it's not necessarily guaranteed. If you look on the map of lakes that we have, I hate to use the word worst lake, but the lake with the poorest condition within Winter Haven is Lake Idle. And that lake naturally flows into Lake Buckeye, which has really good water quality. And over the years, it's not that Lake Idle has recently become bad. Lake Idle has been struggling for quite a long time, which is why it's under an alternative restoration plan. We've not seen a great decrease in the water quality at Lake Buckeye because of that. So I think it really depends, and I think it also depends on what the water quality issues are within the lake. So in Lake Idle, many of the issues there are from nutrient cycling within the sediments that are contained in the lake. And as long as those sediments are still contained within the lake, as long as you have, it's just water that is going from Idle to Buckeye, you're not going to see a reduction in water quality. So sorry to give you a 5-minute answer to your question, but
No,
it's not a straightforward
And
answer.
I thought we discovered in one of the recent storms that there was a connection between.
There is
Elbert.
there is a pipe connection, but the pipe cannot flow. The water would have to essentially flow uphill to a point, or the pipe is at a height that the water level will never be able to get to without kind of really threatening structures within the lake. And it was put in after Hurricane Donna, I believe, in the 1960s. And the way that the system was designed is that it had to have an active pump to pump the water out of the lake and into this box chamber, which then could gravity flow. But it has to be at a height high enough for it to gravity flow to Lake Otis, and the water just will not get there unless it comes up about 8 to 10 feet. So that's the system is there, but we're working on trying to get a pump. But even then, the pump would only be done in times of emergency high water. And since 1960, I think we've only discovered that we would have needed that pump just back after Hurricane Ian, after that really wacky year that we had there. So it would not be something that would flow regularly.
And I can affirm that, Mayor Pro Tem Yates, that structure was put in after Hurricane Donna. It never flowed, and very few people had any real insights on it. It wasn't until we had Hurricane Ian with such excessive rainfall leading into that storm, Lake Elbert came up and started to get to that point of, if we continue to get heavy rainfall through traditional storms, it could potentially further degrade the lake itself by the high rise of that water getting closer up to structures and the roadway itself. So we put in a bypass pump to suck water from Elbert and push it through that pipe to come out. And I forget what street it's at, but it's right at the northern edge of Lake Otis is where it comes out, in kind of a very unique well system that took us a long time to even figure out how that worked and where it was. But, in terms of moving water from Elbert into Otis, keep in mind, so much of the work that we're doing with the Lake Elbert Trail includes stormwater mitigation efforts in there to improve what's flowing into the lake. So kind of catching pollutants before they ever get there, to hopefully see significant improvements in water quality, so that there wouldn't, if you ever did have to make that pumpage of water over, that it would be even less impactful.
Is that Ninth Street where it dumps in down there?
I think it's right behind Dr. Susak's old house.
Yeah, that's Ninth Street.
Yeah, there's a huge slope there, and it's a very unique well system is how it feeds in the lake.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna have one other thing, Commissioner Yates. When you would operate that pump would be at the times when the lake level has gotten extremely high for some reason. And so keep in mind, a lot of the numbers that you're seeing here are reflective of long-term trends. So when the lake's really, really high like that, you have a massive dilution going on. So if you were to sample all of the things that we sample at that point in time, they might be very, very low to begin with. This is representative of kind of long-term trends. I think that's just important to keep in mind.
I can remember growing up, every dock was underwater on Elbert at one point in time. But you also got to think too, if it's that high, then Otis is that high too, to some degree. So,
but Otis, of course, has a natural flowway out through Link, through Miriam, through the canal system that takes it all the way up into the Hartridge system and then out to Peace Creek.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? Lake Idle, do we use alum in that lake?
We do not use alum in that lake. Our alum injection,
Articles, so.
yeah, our alum injection systems are located on May, Lulu, and Howard. We have on Lake Idle, we are looking at different things to improve that basin. We brought to you guys last year the alternative restoration plan, which outlines some management activities. Many of those are going to be outlined in the annual lakes report. And I'm happy to report that we were notified last week that we were awarded a $360,000 grant from DEP to perform some stormwater improvements within that Lake Idle Basin, and which will be, bringing that before you guys to review the grant agreement sometime here in the next few months.
Idle is in Lake Buckeye. Is there an open? There was a breach some time ago between the two, a significant one.
Yeah, there's a connection over on the east side of Lake Idle. There's a structure that is maintained by the Lakes Region Lakes Management District where water can flow from Lake Idle to Lake Buckeye.
I think there was a breach in there. They had to repair. It was wide open there for a while, and they had to go in and actually,
I know at various times that they've had repairs and issues in there on that structure, but I haven't heard of any like really large breaches where there was any significant water lost from Lake Idle.
Yeah, well, it was a very significant one.
Yeah.
Trust me, yeah. And I get the lake is not the depth of it is very shallow. When we had the drought, it basically almost dried all the way up. And I call it Turtle Lake because you see more turtles in there than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you're saying what they can do to that is, it's so shallow. What else can be done in order to improve it?
So one of the things that we've talked about internally, and this is just at some really initial discussion stages, is because of the connectivity with that lake, there is the potential that you could pump all of the water out of Lake Idle downstream to Buckeye. You'd have to go through the permitting process through the state of Florida. It's not something we could wake up and do tomorrow, but there is the potential that we would be able to dewater the lake. And once you dewater a lake, especially a lake that has mucky sediments like that, the sun and the wind and the oxygen would oxidize that substrate, which would provide immediate benefits once the lake reflooded, even if that was the only thing that you did. However, if you did dewater the lake or do a substantial drawdown where you could access with some heavy equipment to scrape some of that muck off and remove it, similar to dredging, but being able to do it on dry ground is a whole lot easier than hydraulically trying to move the muck while the water's still on top of it. That would be a viable option, and that's something that my team and I are exploring, different grant opportunities that may allow us to do that. But there would be some substantial permitting hurdles to be able to jump to do that. But I think if that's possible at any one of our lakes on the chain, it would be that one.
Great report.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve resolution R-25-36.
Thank you. I will close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to R-2536 may do so at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing, reopen the commission meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposes by the same sign. Hearing none. We have adopted the Lakes Report. Great job. We have three ordinances, first reading. The second reading will be on July 28th. July 28th, not August. Ordinance O-2519, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-25-19, an ordinance amending Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Winter Haven, Florida by amending a portion of Plan Unit Development Ordinance O-22-23, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. General location, the northern portion of a parcel, generally located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Cypress Gardens Boulevard and US Highway 27. The area covered by this request is 50.94 plus or minus acres. Thank you.
City Manager?
Mayor and Commissioners, Timothy F. Campbell requests the city amend a portion of a planned unit development under ordinance O-22-23. The property is located at the southwest corner of intersection of Cypress Gardens Boulevard and US Highway 27. Contains approximately 50.94 plus or minus acres. The current PUD permits up to 300,000 square feet of commercial space on the subject property. The southern portion of this parcel would remain under PUD 2223 and continue to allow for 313 multifamily residential units. The petitioner is proposing to develop the subject property with up to 550,000 square feet of commercial, which is an increase of 250,000 square feet from the current PUD. The subject property is designated as a combination of regional mixed-use hub and conservation future land uses. The proposed PUD is consistent with these designations. The Planning Commission on June 3rd, 2025, during their regular meeting, voted to recommend approval of this request. No members of the public spoke. Staff's conclusion is that the increase in commercial square footage, along with the minor changes to development standards, does not create a significant amendment to the PUD. The proposed changes are consistent with the development pattern in the area and of that contemplated by the regional mixed-use hub future land use designation. Staff recommends the City Commission move ordinance 02519 to second reading on July 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Commissioners, any questions? All right. Ordinance 02520. To read by title only, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-25-20, an ordinance amending Chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Winter Haven, Florida by rezoning one parcel from mixed-use MX zoning district to commercial highway C3 zoning district, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. General location: a parcel generally located 250 feet east of First Street, south and north of Avenue H Southeast. The area covered by this request is 0.24 plus or minus acres. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioner, Sharon M. Watson requests the city rezone a parcel from mixed-use zoning district to commercial highway C3 zoning district. The parcel contains 0.24 plus or minus acres. The western portion of the parcel is currently utilized as a parking lot for the adjacent commercial property located to the west. The petitioner owns the adjacent commercial property and intends to develop the property consistent with the C3 zoning district. The current future land use of the subject area is primary mixed-use hub. The requested commercial highway C3 zoning district is consistent with the primary mixed-use hub future land use. There's no direct financial impact to the city with this request. The Planning Commission at its June 3rd, 2025 regular meeting voted to recommend approval of this request. No members of the public spoke in favor or against. The staff's conclusion is that the rezoning to the C3 zoning district is consistent with the property's location and with the developed uses and city designations in the area. And as the primary mixed-use hub future land use designation will remain, the maximum development potential is unchanged. There's no increase in potential infrastructural demands beyond what is currently allowed. Staff recommends City Commission move ordinance 025-20 to second read to be held on July 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions, concerns, discussions? Thank you. Ordinance 02526, would you read by title only, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number O-25-26, an ordinance extending the corporate limits of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, so as to include therein additional territory lying contiguous and adjacent to the present boundaries of the City of Winter Haven, Florida, describing said additional territory, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, and providing an effective date. General location: a parcel located at the southwest corner of the intersection of 8th Street Northwest, US Highway 17, and Avenue X Northwest. The area covered by this request is 0.34 plus or minus acres. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is a request by Candace Ducking and Listen Etienne for the commission to annex one parcel totaling 0.34 plus or minus acres as described by the city attorney. Current taxable value of the parcel is approximately $29,972, and based on the city's current tax millage rate, expected annual tax revenue will be approximately $197.52. Staff recommends the City Commission approve ordinance 025-26 in effort to move it to second reading.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions, discussion? All right. Second reading will be on July 28th. We have one new business item, the developer's agreement with LWG Florida Properties LLC. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On October 23rd, 2023, the City Commission approved Ordinance 2339, a PUD zoning ordinance for the property subject to this developer's agreement. The developer, LWG Florida Properties LLC, has opted to commence construction on Lake Ruby Drive West as required by the Ordinance 2339 prior to commencing construction upon any of the property associated with the PUD ordinance. All such utilities associated with the construction of Lake Ruby Drive West are required to be placed underground. However, placing the existing overhead electric utility lines underground now, prior to development of the parcels associated with the PUD ordinance, places a significant financial burden upon the developer, which may affect the ability to further develop the parcel subject to that ordinance. This developer's agreement provides that the developer may temporarily relocate the existing overhead power lines and associated poles within the rights-of-way of Lake Ruby Drive West until such time as any of the property subject to the PUD ordinance submits plans for building permits and/or site approval. At that time, the developer shall submit plans for the undergrounding of all electric utilities along Lake Ruby Drive West. This proposed developer's agreement runs with the land and inures to LWG Florida Properties LLC's heirs, successors, and/or permitted assigns. Staff recommends the commission approve the developer's agreement with LWG Florida Properties LLC and authorize the city manager and/or designee to take all necessary actions related thereto. So the land to be developed for the residential project is what you see in red outlined on your screen. Going directly north from that, you can see what appears to be a roadway coming down from the top of your screen. That is Lake Ruby Drive West. And going back to the east, to the left-hand side, that is where that trail section would be required to be built as part of the PUD as well. So the road is going in now, and this will just allow them to maintain above-ground utilities for electric until such time as they're ready to move forward with the development of the parcel.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve the developers agreement with LWG Florida Properties LLC.
Thank you. I close the commission meeting, open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this particular item as it relates to the developers agreement with LWG may do so at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing, reopen the commission meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Hearing none. The developers agreement is approved. City Commission liaison reports. Commissioner Mercer.
I don't have, I don't have anything to report on that, but I do have a couple of things I wanted to say. I like the report and I like this shortened version too, but I was going to ask Deputy City Manager, is this something that I should take to the CHNEP? That report, the full report?
Yes, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think I would bring them a copy of the report in brief, and we can get those for you.
Okay.
And that directs them to the full report.
Okay.
But I think that's a good example of what we're doing here, and I think it's something that could be modeled throughout the watershed, which is what Charlotte, the National Estuary Program, would be interested in.
And the other thing, I wanted to thank Parks and Rec for all of their services that they provide to the public and to the outreach that you do to the kids and all the projects that you're managing. That's quite a few. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
Commissioner Densler.
Not a lot to talk about. Had my budget meeting with T. Michael and staff, as always, very professional, and appreciate the effort that all of you guys do to make me comfortable with the budget. Also, like all of us, or some of us, we all went to the Rocking Freedom Fest, and the fireworks display did go off on time. Very good fireworks display. I still am throwing down the gauntlet on why the mayor did not ski in. I thought that was a tradition that we started a few years back, that the mayor would start the ski show by skiing in, but I didn't see that happening this time. So
You're not trying to get rid of me, are
no,
you?
I'm just saying we have a tradition, or we had a tradition, but Polk Visioning Board of Directors. And then last but not least, the Arts, Culture, and Heritage. We awarded our grants. We give away over $2 million to arts, culture, and heritage organizations. The line winner for Winter Haven was Theater Winter Haven. They ended up getting over $400,000, but they were the only organization in Winter Haven that got money, that applied. And I've been the chairman of that thing for 10 years now, and it breaks my heart that the Winter Haven charities and arts and heritage organizations don't apply for this money, because it is serious money. And if you have any influence with some of these organizations, they need to put their name in, because we had 55 different organizations this year that applied. And look at Dan. Dan got over $400,000. Now he and Bach Tower are sort of like the gold standard in terms of bringing people in and how good their applications are. But I mean, everybody was getting this money, and I'm looking at the list, and it just breaks my heart that Winter Haven didn't do it. So help me spread the word, because it hurts. And I've been in a position where I could help these things along, and we just have to get our arts, culture, and heritage directors and leaders to take advantage of this funding, because it's serious money. So that's it.
So, Commissioner Dawson. Not much. I just, had the opportunity to, spend a little time with new employees and to, for their introductions and have lunch with them as well. It's always exciting to see new people come in and, get involved in doing a great job for the city. I am also extremely impressed with the report from our lakes as well as our park and recreation, to echo, that the cultural center, every day you drive by, and it's really impressive. And a lot of people are excited about what will, I think, be a beautiful facility within our city. And also the Rockin' Freedom Fest was enjoyable. My family came out. My only grandson, when the fireworks went off, he was standing up just clapping his hands. So that was pretty exciting. That was his first fireworks. So he seemed to like it pretty well. So as far as he was concerned, it was excellent. But thank you so much for just doing an outstanding job. Also the budget, as I shared with staff, and I appreciate the opportunity to, this is my second opportunity to deal with the budget. The first year, I must tell you, as I told you, that it was all Greek to me. And now I actually understand this stuff. And I appreciate it very much. And you also made it such that I'm able to grab hold of it and make sense of it, and to recognize that the city's doing an outstanding job of being good stewards over what you have to spend and be able to run the city. So thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So I was traveling internationally the past few weeks, so it's really good to be back stateside, be back in the United States of America and Winter Haven. But I tell you, I visited 7 countries. I think it was 7 countries altogether. And there was one common thing between those 7 countries and Winter Haven or Orlando or Tampa or anything else. They all have traffic problems. There's traffic problems in every one of them. So the traffic problems in Winter Haven are not unique to Winter Haven. They're international problems. I was bummed that I had to miss the fireworks this year, but I did stream them. I saw them on Facebook, and so got to see a little bit all the way over in Italy. So I will ask one question as it relates to traffic problems, though, and I don't need an answer tonight. But I just am curious because we got 6th Street done, First Street done, and so now we're moving. Or we had talked about kind of continuing to move east, and First Street would be one of those next problem areas to look at. And so we don't have, school's not in session right now, but man, that traffic backs all the way up from Cypress Gardens Boulevard to Avenue K. So it's just looking for hopefully an update, or, I mean, as Commissioner Dantzler mentioned earlier, it's budget time, and I know budget's thin, but just kind of curious as the direction or next steps that we may be taking to improve 6th Street. So again, don't have to answer right now, but just want to put that on the radar.
Let me
if we
get
could.
with staff on that. You know, that we did improvements on 6th Street several years ago with the help of DOT. They identified that as a kind of a connector road between State Road 542 and 540, and we're able to support some improvements, mostly in pedestrian facilities and somewhat of a complete street project in there. Capacity-wise, it's somewhat limited without taking property, and that's the last thing we ever want to do there. But that may be one that more so from signal timing through the corridor from Central all the way back to Cypress Gardens Boulevard. But let me get with staff and see what kind of analysis of data we may have available at this point and report back.
Or potentially alternative routes that, we can do something there, because really 6th Street's the last street. I mean, there's not a lot of other options. So anyways, appreciate you looking into it.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we're going through the due diligence effort right now to acquire a piece of property at the corner of 8th Street that will allow us to work in partnership with DOT to realign that intersection. And I think that could have a significant impact on traffic flow through that area. But we also must always be mindful that if you move it from one road to another, it doesn't really solve the problem. It just spreads the problem out over more people. So we got to be, mindful about how we approach that.
That's it.
All right, I had a few things. The Rock and Freedom Fest was really great. Fireworks were good. The weather cooperated. Oh my goodness, did it ever. I gave a welcome to probably about 350 to 400 Christians from all over the state at First Baptist on Avenue G. For those that, I have to say this, these were the white Christians. Not that there should be a black or white Christians, but I just want to make that analogy. But they were shocked that I stayed after my welcome to them. I stayed through 2 sermons. They had 2 ministers that preached. So I was there for a couple of hours, and that was quite an experience. I'm not used to certain things, but I did it anyway. So they're going to come for you. Or you next time. All right? All right. Or you a preacher, so you can relate to it. I just want to thank the city staff for a great presentation to my summer youth kids. A lot of those kids don't get to see and be in a place like this. And so I just really want to thank you publicly. We took them not only here, they went to the police department, they went to the airport, and to the fire department. And so it really makes a difference. And so I really want to thank you. In fact, we actually took them up to Daytona Beach for the 150th birthday celebration and the reopening of the Mary McLeod Bethune Museum. And so these kids are really having an impactful summer experience. And so I want to just thank you all for making yourselves available to do that for these kids at the Florenceville CDC. The budget meeting was good as usual. And I see we're going to have a session coming up where we're all together and
Next Wednesday,
Yeah.
and that is, I was going to mention that, Mr. Mayor, that is a special city commission workshop. Will begin at 5 p.m. and that will be to review the budget in public forum in advance of the commission voting on tentative millage on July 28th.
Okay. And I just have two more things that I did. I went to an emergency room groundbreaking out on Havendale Boulevard. And it's not Baycare and it's not Advent Health. It's HCL, I think it is.
HCA.
HCA. They're doing an emergency facility out on Havendale, which is just east of where the new Publix supermarket is going in. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And finally, our CSX Intermodal Logistics Center received a designation as a select site. And when they came and talked about it, it's a big deal. And it's a big deal because I just recall when the discussions were about bringing CSX, there was a lot of pushback from that. And in fact, two groups from the city toured some intermodal logistics centers. Some went to Texas, and I actually went to Georgia. And the thing that impressed me about those logistics centers is that housing were being built around them. So people were going to them. But this is the criteria, and I'm going to read this. I think it's good for the commissioners to know what this is. It says that the CSX Select Site Program identifies pre-qualified rail service properties that meet the strict criteria requirement to accommodate companies with aggressive timelines for expansion or relocation. Each site undergoes rigorous third-party evaluations to confirm infrastructure readiness, appropriate zoning, and immediate development potential. So, I mean, what's going on out at CSX? There's up to 12 million square feet of industrial development. There are build-to-suit opportunities from 200,000 to 2.6 million square feet. Direct CSX rail access, we all know is in proximity of US 27 and State Road 60. And this is where we come in. Full access to city utilities, TECO, Duke Energy, fiber, and natural gas. On-site trucks to reduce the cost and enhance the efficiency of operations. So, hey, it's a win-win for us. And then finally it says, this recognition is a result of strong public-private collaboration among key partners, including Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida Department of Commerce, Florida Department of Transportation, Polk County, the City of Winter Haven, and the Winter Haven Economic Development Council, CSX, Taft Properties, and Florida Public Utilities, Duke Energy, and TECO. So they were very honored to be named a select site. And so we have a golden spike that's in the mayor's office that was presented. So it's a great honor. So with that, City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commission, since our last meeting, the governor did sign Senate Bill 180 into law. That was, if you may recall, y'all sent a letter to the governor asking him to veto that Senate bill, but he did enact it. So we'll have to sort through those issues. That's the legislation that sort of tries to go back. It was an emergency management bill, but it included a number of issues that prohibits government like the city of Winter Haven from adopting or enforcing ordinances that are more restrictive or burdensome than what was in place as of August 1st of 2024. So we'll have to sort through what that means, but I just wanted to inform you that did happen. You may have already read about it or heard about it, but that's an ongoing thing that we'll look at, as well as all the other legislation that was signed into law and has gone into effect or will go into effect. And I'm working with city staff and the city manager's office and others to help the city, as always, remain current and compliant. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager?
Just one thing this evening, Mayor and Commissioners, I will be out of the office on Friday, joining other members of the Greater Winter Haven Chamber Board of Directors for their annual strategic planning retreat. And we will also be discussing with them, or I will, having their president and CEO, Betsy Cleveland, come and give a presentation to the commission at some point in the next few weeks, just as an update on what's happening with the chamber. During my absence, Deputy City Manager Carnevale will be available to address any operational needs as they come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy City Manager?
Nothing this evening, sir. Thank you.
Deputy City Clerk?
Nothing, sir.
All right, emergency matters not received for the agenda. Motion to adjourn.